Hi everyone, good morning. Over the past couple of years, my team and I have built and deployed multiple AI solutions. Some have flourished and became flagship products at our clients, and some died a quiet death. After observing the successes and failures up close, I think I've identified the biggest reason why. I am also a self-proclaimed contrarian, so I hope I don't get under too many people's skin today. And the one contrarian insight I want to share today is that back in the day, building POCs make a lot of sense when the technology is not mature. But in 2025, building POCs have suddenly become the biggest reason why AI projects stall. And hopefully, in the next 30 minutes, I will share with you why you should stop building POCs and what you should do instead. But let's first start with the brain teaser. Okay. In 2022, it used to take 11 people $95,000 to build and deploy one AI solution and maintain it in 1 year. And what's worse is that 85% of these projects fail. They fail to generate a positive impact. And this is a very brutal statistic, but it has been 3 years since 2022. A lot has changed, right? Are there any guesses of what the stats like today? Is it more people, less people? If you get it right, you get a biscuit from our stand. Any guesses? More people, less people? Less people? More expensive or cheaper? Cheaper? And the failure rate?
The same.
Stay the same. So, the first one is that it is correct that it is now much faster and cheaper to get started with a vanilla AI POC. It is much faster to get it out into the open, but as you're trying to integrate into your enterprise scenario, the complexity can suddenly explode, and it can cost more than $300,000 to get into an MVP state. That is still very expensive because of the LLM token cost. And the second is that it used to take 11 people. Those people are mostly in the data science and engineering world. But because AI has moved beyond back office and back-end integrations, they're moving more front and center for user adoption and integrated to critical business workflows. So there are a lot of users interacting with AI solutions directly, which means that it begs for a much more cross-functional role. It starts from AI product managers to make sure that there are good product design and thinking and ownership. Then it also goes into UX design and engineering to make sure that users know how to use these new-ish style products that's different from the previous life cycles of the internet era. And there is also more integration required with software engineers building out the front-end integration, the back-end to multiple systems. And of course, there's the usual suspect of data scientists, machine learning engineers, MLOps engineers, and data engineers. So there's a lot more role types required, even though the number of people goes down. And this is the freshest stat from 2-3 weeks ago that MIT released. I was at a conference 2 weeks ago, and everyone was quoting this, so it completely destroyed my punchline. But today, 95% of the AI pilots fail, and of course, that is a very big headline subject. But the truth is that there are a lot of nuances behind that, and I was really worried that the organizers, Sean and Elette, will boo me off the stage to say hey, we're supposed to be inspiring adopting AI. Why are we seeing doomsday scenario? And the truth is that in 2025, companies are seeing much larger returns compared to previous generations of ML implementations. Even though it's just the 5% of them, they are seeing 3.7 times of average ROI, and for the top performing teams, they're seeing more than 10 times the return. And that really begs the question of what is separating the companies that are successful in rolling out their AI projects and why some of them are stalling and failing. So in the next 30 minutes. That's what I'm going to go through. But before that, I forgot about the slide. My name is Merelda. I am the co-founder and CEO of Melio. I started my career as a data scientist, became a machine learning engineer because I was so frustrated by how difficult it was to put models into production. That frustration has led me to start Melio, where we now help enterprises build, launch, and deploy AI solutions. So for the next 30 minutes, I will go through 3 reasons why AI POC stalls and what to do instead. And then we'll go through how to build your AI MVP smartly in 2025 to make sure that you're that top 5% that generates the 10x return. And then lastly, anchor the 2 success stories to show you how it works in practice. And that brings me to the first failure mode, and that is use case and technology mismatch. This situation usually stems from FOMO, the fear of missing out. The execs might come to some fancy MTN AI Expo and get sold by vendors of like how cool AI agents are, or the engineers will go to the stores and see like really awesome demos. And the truth is that AI agents are really awesome, but they're not awesome for every single type of project. So instead, most of the times people think, let's build an AI agent. But the truth is that Anthropic, the famous AI company, their most famous Building Effective AI Agent blog actually say, don't build an agent unless you have to. And instead, most of the top leading AI companies preach this one very simple principle. Always start from the simplest architecture with the narrowest scope so that you can make sure that you demonstrate value very quickly. Let's take a concrete example. Let's pretend that you are building a customer support, customer service bot that resolves customer queries. There are actually 3 levels of complexity to it. The first one is very simple. It's just automation. Maybe a customer sends an email and the AI reads it and summarizes it, sends back to the customer a confirmation. It is very fast, cheap, reliable, and it is done. It doesn't do a lot of intelligent things, but it is very predictable. Then the next layer is AI workflow. So same example, customer sends a customer support email. The AI reads it, detects the tone as angry, classifies the email as urgent, and escalates it to the right department to resolve. Maybe this is a 3 or 4, 5-step process. Maybe there's more calls to the LLM, but it is still predictable, and it's doing a lot more intelligent things that the human really doesn't have to do. Then we go on to the AI agents. AI agents are things that, AI agents are agents that can make conscious decisions on your behalf and action those items. And they usually thrive in very broad problem spaces because they can think, reason, and act. So what that means is your customer can send you a support email, the AI agent can read it, decides to escalate it, decides to issue a refund, or call a bunch of LLM tools at the back, get stuck in a loop that nobody knows about. Or it can really actually just resolve the query for the customers. But the problem is that AI agents are very fuzzy, and it's very difficult to measure the success in the beginning. Lots of people want AI agents for their flexibility and the ability to action things. But at the same time, they haven't put in enough guardrails and criteria to make sure that there are ways to deal with the increase in complexity, increase in latency, it becomes slower, and increasing in cost because it costs LLMs a lot more time, so it's more expensive. And the biggest problem is that POCs are actually designed to measure how successful a technical implementation is. But businesses don't really care if your technical implementation is successful. They care about the value behind it. If you want to build AI agents, it's very difficult to set up success criteria in the beginning because it is so complex. There's so many different things that you can measure. I'm not saying that you shouldn't be building AI agents, but I'm saying that if you want to build AI agents, make sure there's a very good use case for it, and make sure that you are setting the success criteria. So one simple rule to remember is, if you want faster time to value, go for the easier thing. But if you want to solve a really big problem that you think agent is the right place to go for it. And it is the hottest and coolest tech right now. And that leads me to the second failure mode, and that is undefined success criteria. So imagine this example, and I feel like a lot of you have probably seen it in the enterprise world, is that you've built an AI solution and you launch it into production, and everyone kind of just sits there and waits around and say, okay, we've launched, do we clap? Is this a confetti moment? Are we successful yet? Are we having team dinner? We don't know, because we haven't really set up a really good success criteria to measure what is important to measure. So the thing that we see in a lot of teams is that one side of the team, they have very narrow success criteria. Is, did the solution work? And on the other side, on the business side, is, does it generate ROI? But there's nothing in between. And either side is really bad. And I'll show you why. So instead of just measuring the long-term ROI, we advocate for measuring 5 different levels, so to make sure that you have leading indicators that you're measuring that leads to your ultimate business ROI. So let's take an example. Let's say you are building a B2B sales agent, and that agent's role is to help your salespeople, your account managers, to identify leads, qualify leads, convert them faster. But we also know that B2B sales take 6 to 9 months to mature. So if you're measuring how many leads the AI helped me close from day one of the launch, it is definitely going to fail, because no lead, no matter how successful your AI is, it's going to convert that quickly. Another example is actually in the marketing space. Let's say you want to build a marketing campaign, and the campaign, the most logical success criteria to measure is the uplift of your campaign. But we also know sometimes campaign runs for multiple months, and it's very cycle and season dependent. So if you want to measure how successful your lift is in the first day that it launches, it's going to give a very skewed view of how successful your AI is. But at the same time, you also can't wait for 6 months to know that if whatever you've built is useful, because then you've just wasted 6 months of opportunity to iterate, design, grow, change, update, and make sure that it will eventually lead to success. That's why we put together the 5 levels of measurements that you can take into account that will eventually lead to business success. The first level is system health. This is your plumbing working? This is all about your engineering stuff like latency, throughput, is it up, service reliability? And then it is AI health. Is my AI designed to do what it's supposed to do? Is it answering questions correctly, or is it executing a task correctly? And then it is user adoption, because if people are using it, then it means there is value. They are deriving value from it. Can you think of something that you use every day, but it's really not helping in your life? Not really. And then it's workflow impact. Now that people are using it, how is it making their lives and their business workflow a lot more efficient? Are they saving costs? Are they changing the way that they're thinking about their role and their day-to-day jobs? And finally, after all of that is successful, then it's business value. What is the time saved? What is the ROI generated? What is your up and down? What is your conversion rate? And here are just some examples of the leading and lagging metrics for each of these levels. For the system health, it is what your engineers care about. Latency, throughput, error rates, all of this engineering stuff. And then for the AI health, it's what your data scientists care about. What is the task completion rate for your AI agent? What is the hallucination rate? Is that AI spewing toxicity or bias to your use case? And what is the human level performance compared to the AI level performance? What can we improve from there? That is where the data scientists geek out to make sure that we're optimizing. Then it's user adoption. This is the golden rule for any AI product launch. Actually, it's the golden rule for any product launch, at least in the startup ecosystem, is weekly active users. How many people are actively using it? How long are they engaging with this feature? And if they leave, do they come back? And how often they are turning into the AI's assistants instead of going to do their own random thing. So that's user adoption, and the last one is workflow impact. So in the sales example, these are more the business metric that's very specific to each use case. So from the business side, it could be what is the conversion rate, then the lead it generated is qualified and then converted. Or what is the campaign uplift, then all of those go into the workflow impact, and then way at the end is the business value. What is the time saved? What is the money earned? Because if you don't do any of the first 4 metrics right, there will be no ROI because there will be no users. But if we measure the thing at the end, then we're also not giving ourselves the pat in the back to say we've done well, we're still optimizing, and we're keeping on improving. Because it takes too long to really realize that cycle. And that leads me to the last failure mode. We call it the POC purgatory. So I think Gartner said 85% of POCs fail in 2022, but now MIT says that 95% of AI pilots fail. And what we see a lot is that the tech teams might build something that works, and it could even be quite impressive. It maybe even integrates with your WhatsApp, and then it's silence. Because POCs are usually written with more flimsy code, checking that the tech works, and there's no path to production. So the truth is that shipping AI features is very different from shipping AI products. And this is what people think when they are building an AI project, is they think that they can create a prompt and then maybe fine-tune an LLM even, and then stick a chat interface in front of it, and then boom, make lots of money. But what you actually do with building AI projects is all of these boring things. Logging your errors, checking your retries, if there's like system unstableness, checking if users are using it, why they're not using it, versioning your prompts, checking that each prompt work for the new LLMs because there's like a new one coming out every day, building non-technical UI so you can label and test with people, creating alerting and monitoring so that when things go wrong, your engineers will know up front, package these things as APIs, integrating upstream and downstreams. All of these different issues really take the majority of your project development cycle. And the things that we really want to do is such a small sliver. So that's why we're saying that don't build POCs, because if you only build POCs, you will forget all of these other things, and instead build MVPs, where you take user input as the main consideration. Because POCs, the whole purpose of it is to prove that the technology works. We, as data scientists and engineers, if we know it's a POC, we will default to very quick prototype, writing fragile demo with no integration and no path to production, no scalability and reliability, because that's not the purpose of the POC, right? So instead, if you know the technology already works, then think about how to integrate it into your business workflow. Proves that it delivers value, and the first step of that is always to start with a real user input. Who is your end user? Solicit feedback from them. How do they want to interact with the system? Do they want to chat, or do they actually just want to press a button? Because it changes the backend design completely. And pressing a button is so much easier than chat. You don't have to worry like all of these other things about latency and retries and like streaming responses. So I hope everyone is convinced that we will be building MVPs with a path to production. And I want to also then quickly talk about how we put together a roadmap that over the past couple of years, we've designed this winning roadmap to build out AI MVPs. Even though we do a lot of POCs with clients, it is still through this journey because we don't want to get to the end of the POC when the client says, yeah, let's go into production. But, you know, there's no POCs to production. So there's 4 phases for this 3-month roadmap. It starts with the discover phase. During this discover phase, it's all around measuring creating a definition of success and really understand your use cases. So working with subject matter experts, understanding their preferences, identifying where the integration points are with upstream and downstream systems so it fits into their workflow, and also identify if there's any human in the loop handoff points. When is the AI going to hand over to the human and vice versa? Then there's always data cleaning and confirming a lot of the assumptions with your subject matter experts, because data scientists are not domain experts and they really do need input from the business to make sure what is built is purposeful and not just works. Then the next step is to set up an end-to-end workflow. So we always prefer to set up the end-to-end in the most simplest possible way before we integrate, optimize and improve. And the first step of that, what we do a lot, is to create an evaluation framework. By creating an evaluation framework, that is how you would be able to continuously optimize and improve. And what we do usually is curate 100 different questions from the subject matter experts of how they want to see or interact or engage with the AI and what their desired response is. Then we'll use that as the golden set. So every time we make a tweak and make an improvement, we can run the evaluation again and see if it's moving the needle in the correct direction. Then that comes to the next phase of iterate and optimize. By this point, usually there is some kind of user interface already built. Then the subject matter expert or your users can then test on this interface. Is it too slow? Is it too fast? Is it actually perfect that we don't have to optimize anymore? Or do they actually just want the button color change? That also happens a lot. And then also during this point, set up monitoring and observability capability so that when you go into production, your engineers and data scientists can go to sleep at night, because it's the worst feeling when you're sitting there and be like, oh my gosh, Charles is using it tomorrow. Is it going to be up? We don't know. And that's why it's super important. And the final thing is estimating your operating cost. Because LLMs can really skyrocket their cost very quickly, especially in agentic systems where they make their own decisions. So estimate your cost, track it, and make sure that you're still staying frugal. And lastly is to integrate. So we spent the last 2 weeks tidying up all the upstream and downstream integrations, setting up the operating handbooks to the run team. Say, hey, if anything goes wrong, this is how you fix it, or if there's any queries, this is how you resolve it. And we also do this thing called the red teaming. Red team is basically our team creating a bunch of edge cases like the chaos monkey. Go and try break the system themselves. That's how you can test the robustness of your own system. And then lastly is to train the users, because you can't just expect people to adopt this new tool and technology. If they feel like they've been part of the journey and their input was taken into consideration, then they're more likely to use it and learn and grow with you. Because MVP is not the final destination. It'll just continuously grow and evolve from there. So, I actually showed this thing too early. But if you take an offers and salary benchmark of senior AI engineers, actually intermediate, you guys are enterprise, you probably have like higher cost than that. But to run this process for 3 people for 3 months is about 700,000 Rand. It is not expensive, it's not cheap, but it is right in the middle of that $20,000 to $60,000 that I shared in the beginning. That's why I said in South Africa it's actually not that much cheaper. And all of this is excluding the infrastructure and the LLM cost. But let's say you've built a successful MVP, and we all know that with great power comes great fame and responsibility. If you build a successful MVP, usually the next step is businesses will ask you for more use cases, more MVPs, different departments, and you start to hire more people, expecting that, hey, if we have one person doing one MVP, we have 5 people doing 5 MVPs, right? But the problem is, at some point, you will hit a diminishing in return because there's no standardization and there's no usability of what has been built. Everyone is starting over from scratch. That's why the smartest team in 2025 are building things in standardized, usable, and discoverable way. So what they do is that you standardize on a pattern, either for your integration upstream and downstream, for the APIs or the MCPs if you are in the agent world. And then you allow your teams to discover what had been built. There's a service catalog somewhere, a product catalog that people can pick and choose from, especially in the MCP tooling landscape. It's so easy to integrate them. And then lastly is to allow them to reuse it. Once they have identified the use cases or the existing solutions that they can plug into their system, then it's more likely that they will reuse instead of rebuild. Nobody wants to kind of reinvent the wheel all the time. And that's how you can create scale across the organization and get that infinity curve to infinite ROI. So we talked about discover, reusable, and standardize. Let's have an example to see how it actually works. Actually, a few years ago, this is not possible yet because of the fragmentation in the AI tooling landscape. But in the past year or so, the industry has matured quite a bit, that we are identifying clear patterns, even though there's still lots of different tooling out there. But the pattern is becoming clearer. So at the foundation layer, it is the standardized core technical components. We call them these little Lego blocks that every AI solution will have. And these are, not every, but almost all of them will have. For example, model hubs. How do you switch between different LLMs? Or RAG pipelines. How do you ingest and retrieve important context? And evaluation framework. What I mentioned earlier about repeated testing. Observability, how do you review and understand what is happening in your system? Your guardrails, how do you protect your agents, different prompt versions. All of these are standardized components that can be plugged into the different AI workflows. Then the next layer of Lego blocks is reusable workflows or tools. You can think of these as MCP tools, and we like to build them as removed from business logic as possible, because business logic is something that you can add later without complicating the technical component. If you add business logic too early, then you risk the risk of hard coding things. So for example, reusable workflow tools are like document validation engines. Almost all departments, anyone who deals with paper or forms, have some kind of requirement of getting a PDF, extracting the input, validating the input, and extracting the output, and store the output somewhere. And that is an example of a technical workflow. And then the next step is to actually add the business logic on top of it. That exact same workflow, getting a document, can be used for insurance claims. So updating, sending your jewelry certifications, and then getting out the valuation of your jewelry, and goes through the claim process. Or your HR talent assistant, getting a CV, extracting the output of the CV, store it into your database, and query the database for possible candidates. Or internal audit pilot, it can even be Excel documents. And that actually leads to the first use case that I wanted to share. This is a project for an auditing company, and what we did with them is that we start from, so the use case is that these auditors, before they start an auditing project, they have to prepare for 2 months. That is a lot of manual effort from their senior partners to review what document has been submitted, is it submitted for the right period, and are they submitting the right company to the right invoices? It's very manual, it's super intensive, but it's actually really easy to automate. So instead, they decided that they want to go for an AI approach where the AI can auto-validate the audit documents like trial balances and payroll reports. The client can upload these documents themselves. So let's say for a specific audit, you want 10 different types of documents. The client can upload the document themselves. The AI checks that it is of the right period, of the right company, of the right everything, and then shows them a green tick or a red tick or what's wrong with it. Then the client goes and fix it themselves instead of having a senior partner opening up PDFs and checking that, hey, like this is the wrong period. And then once everything is successful, they can generate an engagement letter and and convert very quickly. And then lastly, this whole project was launched within 8 weeks because it was built with reusable PDF or document validation and verification engines. And I'm sure MTN has a lot of different document validation and verifications that you can reuse it in this way as well. All of this was done through a subscription of 8,000 Rand a month. So the ROI of this is every month, it's about 400,000 Rand of the auditor's billable hours that they can convert to do more meaningful work, get more clients, instead of chasing out menial tasks. And the operational cost for this AI is just 8,000 Rand a month. Then the next example is also using a reusable framework that was built. It's mostly using knowledge base and chat. And this example is a contact center AI assistant built for an NPO. They want to be able to provide sexual reproductive health advice to underserved women. But these women usually don't have good data access, maybe something MTN can fix. And what they do is the customer can send a USSD code, input some values, and then they go into the queue and AI calls them back. So the AI call center agent calls back, gets some preliminary questions. If they can answer, they answer. And then if there's any escalation that they needed, it can be routed to the humans. So that's more complex or nuanced questions can then get the front and center view from the agents themselves. And ultimately, it just reduces the wait time for the customers to get served and improve the customer satisfaction. All of that because it has all of the sentiment and understanding built in, so it's much easier to do analytics afterwards as well. So this project, the operational cost is just under 10,000 Rand. Cool. So I have talked about why POCs fail and what we should do instead, and how we should be building MVPs with discoverable, reusable, and repeatable blocks. And hopefully have convinced you to start building MVPs and stop building POCs. Next time, if you think that you're gonna sink another 6 weeks in building another POC, think maybe you can double that time and investment and build something truly valuable instead. Thank you so much. And if you can spare 2 minutes, I have a short questionnaire to help me improve as a survey. The workshop name is MTN, I'm sorry, I forgot to update it. Thank you so much.